271-2966, or go to our website, www.ewtn.com, and you can go ahead and find out more information about our schedules and everything for pilgrimages. Well, Monsignor, ready for some questions?
I am. Just a clarification that Absharmar is not an Indian name. It's Abuna Sharbel Maroun. It's an abbreviation of Abuna Sharbel Maroun, Absharmar.
And that's you.
That's me, right.
Because Abuna, so we found the real Absharmar. Because Abuna is Arabic for father. They call, right. We call us priest, Abuna.
Right. Abuna.
And Sharbel for Sharbel, and Mar for Maroun.
Or Saint, Maroun, Saint Maroun too.
Yeah.
Absharmar.
Okay, good. Just don't get ahead of yourself here. Let's go on over to a call. We have Michael on the line. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Father Mitch. Hello, Monsignor.
Hi, where are you from?
I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Great, and what's your question?
Thank you. I had a question for the Monsignor. I was wondering if you had ever encountered any difficulties, whether it be governmental or political, in actually broadcasting Christian material to some of the more non-Christian nations of the world, in particular the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for your question. Yes, we had many times before, especially when we were on antennas. Remember, we lost our 3 antennas. They were broadcasting at least to Lebanon and Syria and part of Palestine, the Holy Land. And we used to encounter problems, and also they used to block us because it's easy to block an antenna.
Who would block you?
Probably government. The government would do that. There are people that have power to do that. You know, even individuals and organizations might have that power to do it. You know, of course, you know, they tried to stop the word of God in many places and many times. But once you want satellite, you go into the living rooms, into the basements, into their shelters, wherever they are, and nobody can stop you there. Yeah. So, you know, hopefully, as long as we are on satellites and God is with us, we're going to keep going.
That's excellent, because St. Paul wrote to St. Timothy, bishop in what's now Turkey, that the word of God will not be chained.
Amen.
Let's get a question from our studio. Sir, where are you from?
Swedesboro, New Jersey.
Great, welcome. And what's your question?
I read an article in Knights of Columbus last month that Muhammad escaped his rivals, and he went to the St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai Desert, and this is run by the Armenians.
Oh, the Greeks. The Greeks. Yeah.
And he was protected from the by the monks, and he wrote he was able to to escape, and he wrote in the Quran that the Catholics are to be protected, and why isn't this being more known to the world that Muhammad asked for the Catholics to be protected?
Okay. As a matter of fact, I've been to St. Catherine's. Have you been there?
I haven't, no.
At St. Catherine's, there is a letter from Muhammad inside the monastery. That monastery has never, ever been attacked. And so that letter is there by Muhammad himself, to protect that monastery. What about that? When he said Christians were supposed to be protected, what's going on there?
Well, in many countries throughout history, from the 7th century until now, many of the Muslims have been protected by the Christians. And some places, Christians protected by the Muslims in right. Certain countries. Again, we have to differentiate between fanatic Muslims and between modern Muslims. We have them in all the religions, I believe, too. So I don't think only Muhammad, but many of the Muslims over the centuries have been protected by Christians. They've been befriended by Christians. And you look in most of the Middle East, Christians have played the biggest role there, from medicine to law to science to you name it. Christians have played a very big role. And, I think, God forbid, if we ever lose Christianity in the Middle East, the Muslims are the biggest losers of that situation, because Christians have contributed so much. They've been light to the Middle East, and they must stay there, not only for the Christians, but even for the Muslims. The Muslims are in need of the Christians there. Otherwise, I think the end will come, soon.
Yeah. Also, within the Quran, this is something that I think is worth people understanding. Within the Quran, there are different stages of Muhammad's life. When he lived at Mecca, is when he would call for this. And when he lived at Medina, his message began to change. And you see also from the text at Medina that he also is very angry at the Christians because they did not become Muslim. And that this kind of, strength against them exists in the Quran as well. And that it's a principle in Islam that the later texts abrogate the earlier ones. So whatever he said last on a topic abrogates the earlier ones. And Muslims can choose whichever way they want to follow, but if the authoritative ones will be the last things he said. And that's, I believe, the principle of nasakh, abrogation. So that's one of the problems of citing passages where he said, there should be no fighting among religion, but then later on he says strive against all the other religions. So that abrogates the earlier ones. And that's hard for us to understand, but it's an important principle to understand in the Quran. We have another question here from our studio audience. Sir, where are you from?
I'm from Livingston, Texas.
Oh, great.
And originally from Philadelphia. The question is, why haven't the national media shown us about this television network? I've never heard about it before.
Well, what do you think of that?
Thanks for your question. I believe the media has been very biased, and the media have been, in general, has been persecuting Christians also, or contributing to the persecution of Christians in the West as well as in the East.
Why do you think that is?
Because the media always is interested in power. It's interested in stories that are different than their interests. We look at what's happening in the Middle East. Sometimes there might be a bomb in one place, and we see all of a sudden the news is all over it. Well, churches are being burned every week in the Middle East. People are being killed, on a daily basis. There are people that are being kidnapped for ransoms. They are being, harassed and so on. In Iraq, 15,000 people left Mosul. They were displaced. Their homes were taken. They were kicked out of their homeland that they've been there for the last 3,000-4,000 years there, since the time of Abraham until now. They were kicked out, and nobody has given them any interest. The media probably show them just briefly on the news. Bishop Raho, the Chaldean bishop, archbishop of the Chaldean church in Iraq, was kidnapped for 2 weeks. A week later, we heard about it in the United States briefly, and then he was martyred and thrown out of the village or of the city, and we heard briefly about it, and then it died in the United States. A month ago, you were present there. We had the symposium on Christianity in the Middle East. We had bishops from Iran, from Galilee, from Iraq, from Egypt, from Lebanon, from all over the world, coming together in Detroit. None of the national media showed up because it doesn't interest them. For them, the Middle East is a hot topic, but according to their own interests. And I think we need to give more interest and more attention to what's happening to Christians there. People who are leaving their countries, take Iraq, present Iraq, where thousands of families and hundreds of thousands of people are displaced in Syria and Jordan and Lebanon and all over the world. And we're hoping to go back home and somebody to give them some attention. There's a genocide that's happening here. In the past century, 2 million people were killed, martyred in Armenia. Nobody gave them attention. The Christians of Turkey, in Midyat and Tar Abdin and other places, they've been displaced. Their monasteries are being destroyed and taken over by